So you're thinking about a career in physics, huh?
Sounds like it.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Trying to wrap your head around the universe and how it all works.
It's a big question.
It really is. And you've been checking out RoleCatcher to figure out what that career path might look like.
Good idea.
Yeah, it seems like a really great platform for, you know, really diving deep into whether physics is the right fit for you.
Definitely. And, when we talk about a physicist, we're talking about someone who really wants to understand the universe
Okay.
at its most basic level.
So, like, the nuts and bolts of it all.
Yeah, I mean, imagine studying everything from the tiniest particles
Wow.
to, like, huge galaxies colliding billions of light years away.
That's a lot.
That's the scale we're dealing with here.
That's incredible. But how does that translate to, I don't know, making a difference here on Earth?
Right.
Like in our daily lives.
Well, you might be surprised how much of our daily life actually depends on physics. For sure, physicists are working on, cleaner energy, better medical technology, even like super fast computers and smartphones.
Wow. So it's all connected.
Oh yeah, it's everywhere.
That's amazing. Speaking of technology, I was looking at some of the RoleCatcher stuff, and they mentioned something about physics in entertainment,
Oh yeah.
which sounds kind of, I don't know, unexpected.
Yeah, right.
How does that even work?
Well, physics is used in some really cool places.
Okay.
Think about all the special effects in movies and video games, those crazy explosions.
Right.
The way characters move so realistically, even how the water looks when it moves.
Yeah.
Physics makes all that happen.
Oh, wow. I never would have thought about that.
Yeah.
So you're saying, like, there's a physicist out there making sure, like, the boss battle in my favorite video game looks believable.
Exactly. Game developers need to understand things like gravity
Okay.
and inertia to make sure objects in the game move in a way that looks and feels real.
So it's like they're bringing those worlds to life.
Exactly. And, for movies, think about those massive explosions we talked about.
Oh, yeah.
They need someone who can actually calculate how the blast would spread out and affect everything around it.
That's incredible. So it's not just about knowing all those, like, formulas and stuff.
No, not at all.
It's about actually using them in creative ways.
That's the fun part.
Yeah, that's really cool. Speaking of formulas, though, I did notice that RoleCatcher mentions a lot of skills and knowledge you need to actually, be a physicist.
Yeah.
And I get the feeling it takes more than just, I don't know, a love of staring at the stars.
Yeah,
right?
you got that right. It really does take a unique set of skills to be successful in physics.
Yeah.
You definitely need a strong math background.
Okay.
But it's more than just equations, it's about analytical thinking.
Oh, okay.
It's like being able to take these complex problems and break them down, look at them from different perspectives.
So it's like being a detective, but instead of solving crimes, you're like unraveling the mysteries of the universe.
That's a great way to put it. And just like a detective, you have to see those patterns, connect the dots, and use logic to figure out what's really going on. But here's where it gets even cooler. Technology is a huge part of physics these days.
So it's not all like chalkboards and telescopes anymore.
There's still some of that. But yeah, you got to be comfortable with things like programming, data analysis software, even using really complex lab equipment.
Wow. So we're talking high-tech labs, powerful computers. Are you guys building your own particle accelerators in the garage yet?
Haha, not quite yet. But you're getting the idea. You really need to be adaptable.
I bet. The field is always changing, right?
All the time. New discoveries are happening constantly, new technologies popping up. Being a lifelong learner is really key in this field.
That makes a lot of sense. One thing RoleCatcher mentioned that I didn't expect was communication skills.
Oh, yeah.
I always pictured physicists as, kind of like lone geniuses scribbling away on chalkboards. Not exactly the most social butterflies.
That's funny. But honestly, communication skills are more important than you might think.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Physics is very collaborative.
Oh.
We're often working in teams, sharing ideas, building on each other's research.
So you have to be able to explain your work to each other.
Exactly. And you have to be able to explain it clearly, both in writing and when you're talking to people.
That makes sense.
And sometimes you even have to explain these really complex ideas to people who aren't scientists.
That's got to be a challenge.
Yeah.
Trying to get people excited about things like, quantum entanglement.
It's a challenge, but it can be really rewarding, too. Speaking of different areas of physics, RoleCatcher talked about all kinds of specializations.
Right.
It's like you can choose your own physics adventure.
I like that.
Astrophysics, for example, that's where you dive into those big cosmic questions you were talking about,
Yeah.
like black holes, distant galaxies, even the Big Bang.
Wow.
Or you could go into biophysics.
Okay.
That's where physics and biology come together. They're figuring out how cells work, developing new ways to take pictures of the human body, even trying to understand how birds fly.
Wow. And they use physics for all of that?
Yep, physics is everywhere. And then there's quantum mechanics. That's where things get really wild.
Okay, tell me more.
We're talking about the behavior of matter and energy at the smallest levels.
Like atoms.
Even smaller than that. It's like something out of science fiction, but it's real.
You're making me want to go sign up for a physics degree right now. But let's be real for a second.
Okay.
It's one thing to understand these really complex ideas, but actually getting a job in physics that feels like a whole other challenge,
It can be tough, yeah.
especially with all this talk about automation and hiring.
Right, right.
What exactly does that mean? Like, are robots going to be taking our jobs now? It does feel overwhelming
Yeah.
when you start thinking about actually getting a job in physics,
Mhm.
especially with these applicant tracking systems, or ATS,
Right.
that RoleCatcher mentions. What even are those?
Yeah.
And how do they, like, affect me as someone looking for a job?
Basically, they're a huge part of hiring these days. Imagine a system, right, that scans through like tons of resumes,
Okay.
looking for specific words, skills
Yeah.
that match the job description.
So it's like my resume has to go through a microscope before it even gets to a human.
It's kind of like that, yeah.
Yeah.
It helps companies sort through all those applications.
That makes sense.
But that's where RoleCatcher can really help. They have tips for making your resume stand out to these systems.
Oh, okay.
It's all about using the right keywords, highlighting the skills they're looking for, almost like you're writing an abstract.
Like a scientific paper, but about yourself.
Exactly. You got to speak the language of the robots and the humans.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher also mentioned something about networking, and I think we touched on that earlier, too.
Networking is so important. It can really open doors, especially in a field like physics.
How so?
Well, going to conferences, joining organizations like the American Physical Society,
Mm.
even connecting with other physics people online. It creates opportunities you might not find otherwise.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's where those communication skills we talked about
Yeah.
would really come in handy.
Exactly. You're not just a resume. You're a real person with a passion for physics.
It's about making those connections,
Mhm.
sharing your love of physics with others.
Exactly.
I have to say, this has been eye-opening.
Yeah.
I'm really starting to see how cool a career in physics could be.
It's a fascinating field.
It's challenging, it's always changing, and you're dealing with these huge, important questions. What could be more exciting?
And with platforms like RoleCatcher, it doesn't feel so out of reach anymore.
Right, they make it feel more accessible.
Exactly.
So to wrap things up, for anyone listening who might be feeling a little spark of interest in physics,
Oh, I love that.
my advice is go for it.
What are you waiting for?
Explore those resources on RoleCatcher, see what's out there.
Find something that fascinates you.
Exactly.
Whether it's space, the tiniest particles, those elegant equations.
It's all out there.
Just start exploring. You never know what you'll discover.
Maybe you'll be the one to solve the mystery of dark matter or discover a new form of energy.
The possibilities are endless.
And hey, when you do, come back and tell us all about it.
We'll be here, ready to dive deep with you.
This has been an amazing journey into the world of physics.
It really has.
For anyone who wants to continue their own deep dive, those RoleCatcher resources are a great place to start. Until next time, keep asking questions and never stop exploring.